I think another interesting portion of this trial, like we discussed a little bit, is that Johnny Depp is suing Amber Heard for defamation for accusing him of these abuses that he says he did not commit. He previously sued the UK Sun for libel for calling him a wife beater, and he actually lost.
Right.
And I think that brings up an interesting point of even if Johnny Depp is able to prove or is able to convince the jury that he did not abuse Amber Heard, it's not necessarily a shoe-in that he wins a libel case or a defamation case. Those are hard to win, and that's a whole different subject for sure. But I think it's we're seeing more of them lately, and I'm wondering if we'll see a shift. I want to know what you think as far as usually, especially libel and defamation also, but especially libel against like a major publication like the UK Sun. You
Hmm.
don't see cases like that that are successful very often. Do you think that we're seeing a shift where maybe there will be more success with those kind of cases, or do you think it'll just be more of the same?
I think there could be a small shift because I think there are enough people waking up to the idea that media is getting more extreme. And in their reporting, in their labeling of people, that I think there is going to be a little bit of a shift of like, okay, maybe media and, outlets like the UK Sun shouldn't be able to just label people as a wife beater. Um, and the whole idea behind defamation and libel, if you're a public figure, is that you have to prove that a publication or outlet did it with an intent of malice, not just like, oh, they accidentally mislabeled you that, which is what normally outlets will kind of argue is they're like, well, that was kind of an accident. We didn't really mean to. We're sorry. We're traction. But you have to be able to prove, no, they did it with malice and with the intent of trying to harm me and my career, which is exactly what Johnny Depp's doing with Amber Heard. He's saying, no, she intentionally wrote the Washington Post piece in order to hurt me and hurt my career. And she did it intentionally, purposefully, thoughtfully. Whereas I think his case with the Sun is a little different. But I do think that there is going to be a shift in defamation and libel cases because I think people are waking up to the fact that media is just getting extreme. And they are being more intentional about maliciously screwing over people. And I think the political atmosphere, particularly after love him or hate him, the Donald Trump era, kind of pulled the mask off of some media of like, oh, I guess the media is not all that afraid of going after people and crucifying them. And so I think with that in mind, people may start to shift a little bit with the idea of defamation and libel cases and who will and won't win them.
I think it's particularly interesting to me in the context of conservatism because I think it is a little bit, it kind of fights against each other. Conservatives kind of
Right.
have different ideas on this. And an example is I was even working on a story today, this new disinformation council or board, whatever he's calling it, that Biden has made,
Oh, yeah.
where he's appointed this partisan leftist to be head of the disinformation board, and they're going to decide, what's disinformation, what needs to be censored. Obviously, that is terrible. We don't want that. That sounds like a communist country, and that's not something we
Uh,
want in America. At the same time, you have Donald Trump. I remember when he was definitely when he was running in 2020, and I think in 2016, he would say a lot of times, the media needs to be held accountable. The media shouldn't be able to just
right.
lie about me and then get away with it. Typically, the First Amendment has been interpreted to protect the media if they make a false claim about a political candidate. Usually, they are not held criminally responsible for that unless there's a successful libel case.
Right.
I think I don't know. I don't know what my opinion is on it. It's just interesting to me that as a conservative, I don't want the government telling me what's disinformation, but I also can be sympathetic to Donald Trump's point and a lot of conservatives' point that, I don't want outlets who are super influential to be able to just lie and tell people things that aren't true either. So I don't know what the
Exactly.
answer is. It's a tough question.
It's tough, and it's kind of the catch-22 because you have to have the media protected by free speech. Like, if you want a free society, you have to have that because Even though we now see that a lot of media is corrupt, you can't live in a society. You can't go back to the USSR. No one wants to live in the USSR where it's just propaganda, and people can't be exposed for corruption, and people can't get real information. It's your hands are kind of tied because it's like the media has to be protected, but as soon as you protect the media, then they can take it so far into just going after people and spreading disinformation when they feel like it, and they become sort of untouchable. And so it's like a impossible catch-22 that I feel like people have found themselves in.
To me, I think the answer is a little bit what we were talking about earlier, which is these libel and defamation cases. Maybe you see judges soften a little bit, not changing the burden of proof or anything, but just historically, these publications who have good lawyers are not found guilty of libel. I think maybe, I think the system is good. The fact that you need to prove that they not only said something that was false, but did so with malice in order to hurt you.
Yeah,
I think
that's a good system.
That's a good system. I think maybe judges need to shift a little bit in the way that they interpret it, to be a little bit more favorable to the person who is suing the outlet or whoever it may be.
Yeah.
Maybe we see that and that helps a little bit. I'm not sure.